You're listening to The Carbon Arc.
Hi there, I'm Toby Roan, and this is The Carbon Arc. My guest today is my friend and writer Scott McCrea. Our topic is Three Godfathers, both the John Ford film from 1948 and the 1936 version starring Chester Morris and Walter Brennan and Lewis Stone, and a little smattering of Peter B. Kine's original story. So,
And
hello,
Sidney
Scott.
Toller.
Oh, yeah,
And
Sidney
Sidney
Toller.
Toller.
So go ahead, Scott. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Merry Christmas, Toby.
Yes, Merry Christmas to you and y'all out there too.
Yay. So I'm Scott McCrea. I was born at an early age. I got rapidly older, and I am now the wreck you see before you. No, I'm a writer. I write Westerns. I think I've written about 40, and I write a series of Westerns about a marshal named Marshal Ezra Flint. And I'm happy to say that two of them are now audiobooks. Cry Flint is an audiobook. It's terrific, if I do say so myself. And Showdown at Red Hollow is an audiobook. And I also have a Christmas book out now called Tom Mix and the Wild West Christmas. If anybody has last minute Christmas shopping, get Tom Mix and the Wild West Christmas. You couldn't do better.
Oh, that's great. So do you read the audiobooks?
No, because I sound like an accountant. So the publisher found somebody with this really wonderful Western voice, and he does like a bang up job. And
That's great.
every now and then I listen to it and I go like, wow, I didn't even know I wrote that.
Isn't it weird
It's
you
good.
hand your stuff over to someone else and it sounds more official and real than when
Yeah.
you touch it? It's very
Yeah,
strange.
it's like the greatest thing in the world.
Okay, so
Wait, what are you up to, Toby Roan?
I am trying desperately to get my 50s Westerns book on track and finished.
I'm looking
And I gave myself a secret deadline that I'm not going to reveal because it will probably just ensure that I'll miss it. But I decided over the weekend that I'm going to add Three Godfathers to my sort of pre-1950 section because I want to. That's the thing.
Okay.
That's the good thing about being an author. You can do it just because you want to. In a way, I feel like this movie sort of, even more than Wagon Master, starts to point towards Ford's work in the 50s. And we can get to that a little bit later, but this may be the first movie that we see John Wayne as the John Wayne hero that we think of with his films in the 50s and especially the 60s. That's sort of that version of John Wayne as opposed to, say, the Stagecoach version of John Wayne. So
Okay.
anyway, so let's get going. The Ford version of Three Godfathers has been released on Blu-ray about a year ago, and it was incredible. Full restoration from the folks at Warner Brothers, and it's just a thing of great beauty. It's a beautiful movie to look at anyway, and now it's even more so. I wish I could grab frames from this movie and hang them over my couch. And one of the extras on this Blu-ray was the 1936 version, called Three Godfathers, directed by a man whose name I will probably butcher, but so I think was he Polish?
Yeah,
So
he's Polish.
it's very different. And so it's kind of interesting to contrast the two films. And for for those who have really kind of watched this movie and studied it and compared it to, where it sits in Ford's work and other things about Ford, this one is, I mean, comparing it to the 36 version is very, very revealing, especially when you also fold in look at the original short story. So anyway, let's go with 1936 first. Scott, you want to get us started?
I'll jump in. Um, so I hope Toby Roan, lover of John Ford, is sitting down. I think so when you asked me to do this, I said terrific, because I adore the 1948 version. It's one of my absolute favorite movies. It's one of my favorite Christmas movies, and every year we pull it out, and I weep like an inconsolable child. I mean, I love that movie to pieces. And I'm like, well, I will see the 1936 in good faith because, first off, I'm doing a podcast for my friend Toby. And second, it's a story that I just love. Last night was the very first time I'd seen it, and I have to tell you, not only was I shocked at how great it was, I think it's better than the Ford version. In almost every particular, it's better than the Ford version. And let me expand. So first off, the Ford version is gorgeous. I mean, it's got that luscious Technicolor that is so gorgeous, like your eyeballs get fat while you're looking at it. But the 36 version is shot with that high gloss that you only got from MGM in the 30s. And it had, or they had, a very particular look. And you can see that.
That's true. That
sumptuous black and white photography. And, there are moments in this that I think are almost as frameable as the Ford version. I was amused at the credits that the costumes were designed by Cedric Gibbons, who you think of as the guy who's like designing Myrna Loy's slinky silver lame gowns for the Thin Man movies. And I'm like, what did he do? Did he add extra dust to Louis Stone's hat? But first off, there are close-ups, deep focus close-ups in this that like almost prefigure Sergio Leone. And the framing is just magnificent. That moment where Louis Stone and Walter Brennan, and then later, oh good heavens, I'm just drying up on his name. Our lead bad guy,
Chester Morris.
Come in and they're framed by the exterior of the wagon. It's just magnificent. And I always thought that Walter Brennan was an acquired taste. And I think he is just magnificent in this picture.
Yes, he is.
But the two revelations to me, first off, were Morris, who I've seen, like in the Bat Creeps and all those crime doctor movies. And I think of him usually as a cop or a gangster. This is probably like he makes Trampus look like Mother Teresa, right? He is the worst villain in Westerns ever. He's an unrepentant liar. He's a philanderer. He's a cold-blooded killer. This guy's a total monster.
And they take him to his hometown and let him just basically admit to everyone what a horrible person
What a horrible person he is.
I mean, the first, 10 minutes of the movie is just making sure we understand how horrible he is.
Oh, yeah. Like he has this watch that he stole from some woman that he killed. And he's like, oh, it was my mother's. And it's just so he could like score with the women. It's the most appalling behavior you can imagine. For me, like, and you have all of that great stuff with Sidney Toler as the dentist, but the signature performance of the movie is Louis Stone.
Yes.
Who I think is like, this man should have been that. This is the man who should have played Hopalong Cassidy.
Oh,
he
wow.
is just because Hoppy should be an older guy. And that's one of the fascinating things about Western heroes. It's like they're the only heroes who can be older.
Yeah, actually, a lot of times, like with Randall Scott or Joel McCrea, they get
the
better
older
when they're older. Yeah.
Yeah. And he is, I mean, I'll just put this out there. He is breathtakingly gorgeous in this movie. There are shots of Louis Stone where you say, oh my God, this is the handsomest man ever in movies.
He looks like, he's got that accent, which kind of undoes it a little bit, but he looks like those guys you see in all those Western paintings and stuff.
Yes, he looks like a Remington come to life.
I mean, he's just, very majestic, but grizzled a little bit and world weary and all those kinds of things.
And I'm going to opt for this being better than the 48 rather, because the redemption arc hits so hard.
Yes, it does hit very
first
hard.
off, when Louis Stone, spoiler, Louis Stone kills himself, that hits a lot harder than Pedro's suicide in the remake. I mean, it hits really hard. We were watching it last night and the suicide shot came and we actually paused. We're like, oh my God, did that really happen? And Morris is such a rotter. I mean, he makes the Grinch look like Mother Teresa. He is such a despicable person. And not to get highfalutin or overly religious, but like he finds God's grace. And that's really what it's all about. And it's just one of the most remarkable moments. And he dies against the pillar, as you know, and there's like this holly over him, and it's almost like a halo.
Yep.
And the redemption is just so strong because they are so vile. And I think that's the lesson of the story. So I mean, I now have a new favorite movie thanks to you.
So,
What did you think?
I agree. I loved it. I was shocked throughout it. I agree. Brennan can be a little bit over the top. He can be a caricature sometimes. I understand why he won all those Oscars and stuff because he can be brilliant. But even though one of his most cartoonish performances is in my favorite movie of his, which is of course Rio Bravo, but in this I didn't, if I didn't see the credits, I don't know that I would have known it was him.
Yeah. He's only 40, by the way.
Oh, he looks like he's 103.
He looks like 140, yeah.
He's really thin. He's got this big scraggly beard and mustache. It would be really easy to not realize it was him. Where the 48 version, you've got Pedro's, you've got a Mexican guy, you got the young kid, which is Harry Carey Jr., then you've got John Wayne. These guys are it's just a very different team, because you've got Walter Brennan, who's just this raggedy old guy who's just sort of, that's just what he does. You got Lewis Stone, who seems to have a whole lot of regret about how screwed up his life is. His redemption thing is very different from the others because, I mean, he's thinking about it. You can tell that it's eating him up, and the fact that he's been shot and he knows his days are numbered. You can watch his character think. You can watch it coming, and it's really something to see. I've always thought Lewis Stone was cool, but this really moved him up, way up on my scale. I mean, he was really incredible in this one.
He had a certain Doc Holliday quality, like that educated man who's somehow exiled in the
ways. Oh yeah, very much so. Yes, who somehow wound up in this, and he's got the Lunger thing just like Holliday too. So, we assume he came out there for health reasons perhaps, and everything went really, really south for him. So it's interesting to have two characters who are just despicable, and they aren't really thinking about redemption. And then one who it's very much on his mind. And so that's really an interesting way of looking at it. You don't have that so much in the Ford version. Everybody gets a really great hat in this movie. And hats to me are very important because some of the later Bud Boetticher, Randolph Scott movies are really almost scuttled by terrible hats for Randolph Scott. So this one, everybody's got great hats. And Chester Morris, while he's horrible, he looks really cool.
He looks great.
He's got a cool hat. He's smoking all the time. He just looks really cool. And it's weird that people are in the desert dying for water, but they continue to smoke. That was an interesting thing. I felt like Morris's redemption came a little too quick, but when it does come, it comes, and it's brilliantly played, brilliantly staged and shot. And it's hard to imagine there would be a movie that would punch me in the stomach as hard as the Ford version does, but this one does.
It's remarkable.
It's different, but it's the same impact. And so,
well, it's one of I think so. I mean, Chester Morris shoots Santa Claus.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't get more despicable than a guy who shoots a man in a Santa Claus outfit. Says, there ain't no Santa Claus. Who, by the way, you could tell he puts that thing, to give him stuffing.
Yeah.
And you see him later in church when Chester Morris staggers into church carrying the baby. So he obviously lives. And I actually, if I were the mastermind behind that, that guy would be dead.
Yeah.
Because that makes the redemption even stronger. Because no one's turned away from grace.
Right.
But we could not get over that movie when it was over. We were talking about it for like an hour. Oh,
yeah.
God,
I was telling my family about it, and I was just talking about it the next morning, and I was just fighting to not get choked up. It's really both of these movies hit really hard. where one uses incredible Technicolor to show the desert, and it's still menacing, and you get a sense of the heat, but it's beautiful. In the 36 version, the desert, the photography is beautiful, but the desert is awful.
Yes.
It feels like another planet. It looks and that was color is great for heat. I'm not usually a huge fan of color, but color really works with heat. And they do a brilliant job with this one. It's overexposed in just the right way when they get out there in the sun, and it just is oppressive.
And Morris looks terrible by the end.
Yes, he does. He does.
He looks like somebody who's been in the desert for days.
Yeah, and and you've watched this thing, and it's built up this idea of the heat and everything, and then for Morris, and this is another kind of a spoiler, for Morris to sort of just walk away and abandon the baby after we've been shown repeatedly throughout this just how awful this environment is, just makes that scene and then the redemption that follows even more powerful. So
I just want to touch on, like, you thought the redemption was easy, and it is, but when he drinks the poison water to save the baby, to give him an hour's worth of energy, there's no pious resignation. It's sort of like angry defiance.
Yes.
It's like, oh, screw you, I'm going to do this.
Right. So even his redemption comes with a hard edge.
Even his redemption has a hard edge. And I love me some John Wayne, but Chester Morris is just so fabulous in this picture.
Well, John Wayne would never have taken it on to be that awful.
No.
And we have, if this is indeed one of the first times where for John Wayne's hero type persona is really nailed, it just wasn't. It just wouldn't work. We've got enough backstory from having watched a million John Wayne movies that we would not have accepted John Wayne that bad.
No.
So
believe it or not, if that was Randolph Scott in the remake, like I would have
48.
Yeah, if they had hewn it closer to the 36 screenplay, and that was Randolph Scott, for example.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I would buy that.
Yeah.
I might even buy it from Joel McCrea, believe it or not. But from John Wayne, you don't buy it for a heartbeat.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we all have our particular brand of John Wayne that we carry with us. And there's things that are on brand and things that are off brand. Him being a bank robber in this is for some people would be off brand. But anyway, so let's officially move over to the 48 version, since we're kind of moving that way anyway. The 48 version, Ford's version, is his third time at bat on this story. There's two silent ones that are both lost. One of them was a Harry Carey senior picture, which is why the 48 version is dedicated to him, and why he cast Harry Carey Jr. in it and claimed to be introducing him, though he had already made some movies. And it has this sentimentality and this religious allegory that some people find heavy hitting and sappy and sentimental and all those kinds of things. And so a lot of people sort of write this one off. It's often sort of, if you're talking about Ford's Westerns, this one doesn't get as many pages or minutes as the other ones. So there's a lot of that. But I love it. I've seen it so many times since I was a kid, and I just love it. And it has Ford's sort of dopey comedy woven throughout.
Yep.
It's got a lot of the same character actors that we know. And we, just like Wayne, they have a brand, and we sort of, go with that. So some of the characters come sort of pre-drawn because we just know them. Certainly Ward Bond. And then some of the lesser characters, Hank Worden and some of them. It's sort of even though it gets really heavy at the end, and it's about bank robbers and people, dying out in the desert and all this stuff. It has this sort of happy vibe through it for the first part. And then when it gets heavy, it gets pretty heavy. And then when the when it gets religious, it gets very religious. And then in the middle, okay, the woman has died, and these guys have got to care for this baby. And they've gone through the thing where Pedro has delivered the baby.
Yeah.
All these kinds of things. And they're just, it's really tough stuff. And it's played beautifully. And then we get this like goofy scene where they're trying to figure out how to take care of the baby. And John Wayne's sitting in the chair and holding this baby, and they end up putting axle grease on it to protect it and all this stuff. And it's that typical thing that John Ford does so well, which his movies just sort of turn on a dime. I'm going to be really, really heavy right here. Now I'm going to be really goofy. And then I'm going to go be back in heavy again. And then I'm going to have a big action scene, really exciting. And then I'm going to do this weird knockabout comedy again. Some people can't take that stuff. It's one of the big criticisms of The Searchers, which to me is the greatest American film ever made. But it works here better than any of the others. It doesn't feel like a shift. It's just the way the movie is. And so a lot of people's complaints about all that kind of stuff, they make no sense to me. It's just, I just feel like this movie just flows brilliantly.
Well, so let me tell you.
Please do.
If somebody says it's sentimental and the tone shifts and it's occasionally tragic and it's occasionally funny, I think you're talking about Charles Dickens.
Yes.
And Charles Dickens is the only great writer of in the canon that goes down like a milkshake as opposed to like castor oil.
Right.
Because he's the genius that you like.
Yeah.
And John Ford is the genius that you like. And I cry at supermarket openings. So if you tell me something sentimental, I'm first in line.
Well, we watched It's a Wonderful Life last night. And so when I kind of started thinking about this, that we were going to do this today, thinking about these movies, and I thought about the shifts in the tone of It's a Wonderful Life are very much like Three Godfathers.
Yeah.
You introduce these characters and they're goofy and you like them. And then you put them through absolute hell. And then you bring God into it. And then everything turns out okay.
And there's a little comedy. Yes.
And there's, yeah.
Kind of like life.
Yeah, exactly. But it was really interesting. I was like, wow, this movie turns on, it makes those same zigs and zags like Three Godfathers does. Yeah. And they're both made within a couple of years of each other by two great guys. And they both have Ward Bond in them.
And they both have Ward Bond in them. The religiosity of Three Godfathers, I think, might make some people skittish today because we're an incredibly secular people. But we weren't that secular in 1948.
No.
And I, being of a religious turn of mind myself, love it. And I think we're uncomfortable with the religious overtones to our detriment.
Yep.
And I think a more 1948 mindset actually is what's called for here. And I think without the religious element, so the religious element's there in the 36.
Oh yeah, it's
not as strong. But I mean, without it, there's no story because the whole idea is. I mean, it's a parallel of the Magi, and it's a story of redemption, and there is no redemption without God. So I have no problem having God in my redemption story. Right. And, to pull something completely out of left field. I mean, that was always my big problem with Darth Vader. I mean, like suddenly it's like, well, yeah, I'm not that bad after all. Like what?
Yeah.
But that's because there's no moral underpinning to that universe. But in the real universe here, there is a moral underpinning. So stories of redemption do hit hard when they're understood in the context of faith.
Redemption is one of the things that Westerns do better than most other types of movies. And so these being, two of easily the best examples of that.
Yeah. Well, wait, is there anything that Westerns doesn't do better?
Oh, well, yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're right. Okay. Yeah. You're right.
So much as I love the 48, I'll tell you my my very minor problems with it. First off, they're musical comedy gangsters as opposed to real gangsters. Like any minute, I expect them to sing "Brush Up on Your Shakespeare." Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Um, and then also, even though this is early-ish in John Wayne's career, is there any doubt whatsoever at all that he's going to leave the kid?
That's true too. Yeah. That's
Chester
true.
Morris, like, yeah, he'd leave the kid and have an ice cream. He didn't care. John
Yep.
Wayne is like, of course, John Wayne's going to do it. But those are minor caveats, and part of that is our baggage rather than the movie's baggage.
Yeah. Well, I find it
Um,
interesting that in so much of the Wayne version, it's about they made this pledge to this woman.
yeah,
It's not about we got to save this kid. We got to. It's we promised this woman,
right.
and so it's interesting how they make that distinction from they. It's always about that. It's not this is the right thing to do. It's that we promised, and their
Right.
word is worth something.
And that's Mildred Natwick, who's supposed to be 29, 30, but was
Yeah.
actually 41 and looked every day of it.
Yeah. Exactly.
But that's
That.
almost so that dialogue in the Ford version is taken almost verbatim from the story.
Yep. And the story, we get this idea through researching these things in film history and the way people talk about these movies. We feel like Ford came along with a bucket of syrup and a bucket of Jesus and just poured it all over the script to this movie, and that was the way it works. But if you look at the original story, it's
It's
a
a
lot
bucket of
closer.
syrup.
It's a lot closer to the Ford version than it is to the Chester Morris version.
Indeed, it is. There's no backstory like there is with the Chester Morris.
No, no. The Ford seems to design the opening of the movie to make us like these guys,
Right,
where the 36 version seems designed to make us not like these guys.
right.
And so it's very interesting. To watch them back to back would be, I mean, rather than just sort of compare them, to actually watch them back to back would be a lot of fun.
He the screenplay for the 48 gives the Ward Bond character really something to do, and makes him an adversary and then later a friend.
Yeah.
But I mean, but look at how let's say the lead bad man. Look how the lead bad man treats women in both versions. I mean, like John Wayne sees this woman from across the room, and at the end of the movie, like she's going to wait 2 years for him to get out of jail,
Yeah.
and then he waves his hat to her in that sort of Roy Rogers way, and Chester Morris takes the watch of a woman that he killed and uses it to get laid. I mean,
Yep.
it's just two
Yeah.
dramatically different ways of looking at this person.
Yeah. Very true. Very, very true.
But so it's amazing in terms of adaptation because they're both tremendous screenplays, and it's the exact same story. It's just a question of details.
Yeah. And it's really interesting, more than any other, movie and remake that I can think of, where you can really see what somebody brought to it and how they shifted it, how the tone shifts from, what you've got, what you started with to what you ended up with. You can see how it's fun. It's interesting to watch which direction you took it in. And these guys took it in very different directions.
Yeah.
So
So you're still on the 1948 camp.
no, I think they're both brilliant, and I think that they're so different. I think in some ways the 36 version is the better movie, but just because something is a better movie doesn't mean I have to like it more.
Oh no, I understand that entirely.
And I am a
You're talking to a man who loves Journey to the Center of the Earth.
The Three Godfathers is one of my favorite John Wayne movies, one of my favorite John Ford movies, and actually one of my favorite Westerns.
So
And
are they Christmas movies?
yeah, they are Christmas movies, especially the Ford one, because it's so wrapped up in the Christmas parallel.
Mm-hmm.
The other one, less so, but it hits it so hard at the end that it might as well, sort of like, you look at something like Die Hard, it's a Christmas movie because it takes place at Christmas. It's not a
Yeah, it
Christmas
doesn't make it a
movie because
Christmas
it's not
movie.
about Christmas.
Yeah.
These are kind of in the middle. They both take place at Christmas, but they don't, and they both use Christmas in a very interesting way. And by Christmas, I mean the Jesus story and the
Yeah, of course,
parallel.
yes.
But so yeah, I would say that they're Christmas movies. I think of the Ford one as more of a Christmas movie because I have watched it almost every Christmas since I was 10 years old.
I would say, well, there's certainly more Christmas movies than Batman Returns. Um, but I think they're Christmas movies and they're Christian movies,
Oh, that's a very good point.
which makes them perfect. Like Come to the Stable is not necessarily a Christmas movie, but it's a great Christian movie. Ditto, believe it or not, The Bishop's Wife, which we
Oh,
watch every Christmas.
oh yeah,
But
it's one of
that's
my
a great
favorites.
Christian movie that happens to take place at Christmas, but it's not necessarily a Christmas movie.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And Monty Woolley rules
Oh yes,
everything in that
Monty
movie.
Woolley should be in a Western. So.
Oh wow, yeah. I love Monty Woolley. But and that's also one of my favorite Cary Grant movies. I mean, it uses the Cary Grant persona better than most other than some of the Hitchcock films
Yeah.
maybe. But
Isn't it fascinating that like the 48 Three Godfathers, that part of the success of the entire enterprise is that whoever is making it understands what the lead is bringing to the table, and they're
yes.
playing on that.
Yes, that's crucial to any kind of movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Like the
watched
only other movie I can think of that deals with the John Wayne myth, as successfully as Three Godfathers. It's like either, it's like the Cowboys or the Shootist.
yeah, yeah. Yep. Another thing we were talking about It's a Wonderful Life. I was thinking that both Ford's Three Godfathers and It's a Wonderful Life were made by guys who went to war, saw some awful stuff, saw how awful people could be. Um, and look what they did with it. They put people through crap and then they bring God in and fix things. So I wonder how much of that was shaped by what they experienced in the war. I mean, post-war westerns as a thing is very different than pre-war westerns. But I just was wondering if those two guys, how that impacted what they did with these two movies.
How could it not?
Oh yeah, how could it
Yeah.
not?
Yeah. I mean, how could it not? I mean, so It's a Wonderful Life. Look at how different Stewart was in the 30s compared to post-war Stewart. I mean,
Yeah,
it's a dramatically different man.
yep.
And
He had the same goofy mannerisms, but they just came from such a different
they
place.
came from a different place. And I think, um, and I don't say this, highfalutin, but as a writer, everything is in there.
Yeah,
Your whole life is in there. And some people are born happy and some people aren't. And some people have things happen to them that change them. And their essential nature is the same, but it's colored by what's happened to them. And that both of those movies are clearly people who've been touched by war,
right. Yeah, yep,
but managed to come out of it whole. I mean,
yeah,
you look at so many post-Vietnam era films, and they didn't come out of the war well.
yeah,
And you look
yep,
at a lot of post-World War II films, and they were scarred but survived and came out of it well. And part of it is, different wars and different generations and different expectations from people. But these things add depth and subtlety and profundity to what would normally be simple entertainments. We mentioned The Bishop's Wife. I mean, that movie would be impossible in 1937, but it's essential in 1947.
yes, that's very true.
Because 1937, it's like, well, yeah, let's build a cathedral. 1947, it's like, well, half of Europe is starving. Do you really need a cathedral?
Yeah, that's
But it's
why.
not negative. But it's not negative. It's
No,
like,
it's not. It's just the way it
yeah,
is. And
yeah,
that's why I think I love movies from say 47 on. It's so different.
yeah.
So I guess to start to put a bow on this thing, a nice Christmas bow on it, we got two movies hitting the same subject based on the same story, going in very different directions. And we got two guys that agree and disagree on these two films. But I think one thing we can definitely agree on is that you should watch them if you have not seen
Either
them.
one.
You watch one, watch both, and do it in the next couple of days because it's almost Christmas.
Yes.
So, anything else you want to add as we wrap up? So we're running
yes,
out of
as
time.
Tiny Tim was wont to observe. God blesses everyone.
Absolutely.
And Merry
Absolutely.
Christmas to you, my friend. What are you doing for Christmas Day?
I don't know. We kind of have this little tradition where we go to the Waffle House and just there's always
you told me
people
about that.
who
Yeah.
they're just there eating and they're all happy. Maybe they've already, done with the family thing, whatever. It's just always a really happy place. And so we like to go do that.
I'll tell you a very quick story because I know we're running out of time. But many years ago, many years ago, it was right before Christmas and I barely knew you. I mean, like I barely knew you. And you sent me a Lone Ranger record. You probably don't even remember this.
I do remember it.
And I'm like, I like this guy.
And before I put this podcast in the sock drawer for a couple of years, and this is my vow to get it out of the sock drawer, keep it out of the sock drawer. We talked about wanting to do a big fat one on the Lone Ranger, and we did not do it. And so we have got to do that. A New Year's resolution podcast on the Lone Ranger.
The Lone Ranger. Yes.
So I guess with that, that'll be it for Carbon Arc, and wishing you all a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
See you, Scott. Looking forward to the next one.
I'm looking forward to the next one. I'm looking forward to the new year.
Yes, absolutely. So take care, y'all, and go watch these movies.
This has been the Carbon Arc. Thanks for stopping by.